Yeah, Matt. All right. I have it's 5 o'clock. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Sean Callan.
Here.
Julie Chetney.
Here.
Tom Chiappa.
Here.
Jim McKenzie's here. Sean Onmock is not. Tim Rice.
Here.
And Jennifer Salazzo.
Here.
All right, if I can have a stand for the pledge, please.
First the flag.
Pledge allegiance
Which is the flag of the United States of America.
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, there is not anybody signed up for floor to the public, so we're on to superintendent's report. Dr. Kilmer.
So I'd like to invite Erica and Carrie to come forward from King & King Architects. They're here just to talk to the board, a brief overview of our 2026 planning for our referendum vote, which we tentatively have planned for October, end of October, I think October 27th, 2026. That's part of our long-range facility plan. So they're going to kind of go over just the general basics, and we'll get more detailed as we move forward throughout the process. But the board will need to take action at the next meeting for seek a resolution, a couple of other pieces, but they'll go over timeline as well. But I'll let them start and kind of review the general framework for the project as we have it laid out.
All right. As you said, my name is Erica Civitella. I work with King & King. We've spent several months scoping out this project. We've worked with the district administrative team, the facilities group, principals, staff, as well as the construction management team to prioritize and estimate all the scopes. A big part of our effort has been to manage the aidability of the project and make sure that we maximize it. So we're coming to you guys today to kind of show you where we're at and the buildings that we have planned and the amount, which should be quick. Okay, so approximately a $26 million project. This project has been scoped out in a way that at this time it does not have any use of capital reserve funds, which is good news. We're looking at work at the Oswego High School, middle school, the middle school storage and toilet facility, as well as Minetto and Riley. So the biggest scopes are mainly at Minetto and Riley. You can also see here the budgets that comprise of the 26 million. So at the high school, we're going to run through now the scopes for each building that we anticipate doing that have been kind of elevated as the highest priority for each school. For the high school, we're looking at complete public address and clock system replacement. We're looking at elevator replacement, staff room and restroom renovations, select air handling unit replacement, and other select HVAC improvements. For the middle school, we're looking at a cafeteria renovation, elevator modernization, security upgrades, and HVAC control upgrades. Also on this site is the middle school storage and toilet building. We're looking at renovations in that building to maximize storage and include some new toilet spaces. Next. So at Minetto, we're looking at select concrete sidewalk replacement outside, flagpole replacement and relocation, masonry restoration, elevator modernization again, generator replacement, that was a theme in the last project, security upgrades, piping infrastructure upgrades, HVAC controls, electrical panel replacement, and again, public address clock system building-wide replacement, restroom renovations, and select classroom renovations as well. And at Riley, here we're looking at a playground equipment replacement, exterior stair replacement along 8th Street, masonry restoration, some more exterior door replacement. We're trying to finish everything off here with the exterior doors, some interior door replacement, electrical panel replacement, security upgrades, cafeteria audio video upgrades and curtain replacement. We're also looking at HVAC control upgrades again, elevator modernization, public address and clock system, and there are some renovations planned for restrooms in the 2nd and 3rd grade wing, as well as the 5th and 6th grade wing. We're also looking at upgrading, renovating the lobby restroom area, and then the kindergarten classrooms as well. So that's most of the scope. Next steps, as Dr. Kilmer had mentioned, we will be looking at, in the next few weeks, finalizing project financials with fiscal. This is a type 2 action, so there's no significant impact on the environment and there's no additional forms or review required. On August 25th, I think that's your next board meeting, we're looking at the project and secret resolution. There's a note here, it has to occur within 45 days of the vote. In September to October, the public relations campaign will kick off and make sure to get all this information out to the public and voters and families. And then we're targeting an October 27th vote date at this time. And that's mostly it. Do you guys have questions?
So a couple of things just to remind. So one thing that you may notice, if you compare our long-range facility plan and what we had projected when I presented that plan 3 years ago, you'll notice that this project is almost 10 million less than we had projected. It also is, right as we have it today, not utilizing any capital reserve. And that long-range plan did have it use capital reserve. This project also has 0 tax impact, right? So we would go out, there's no additional tax impact on the community. So the question might be is why is it less? Well, it comes down to those maximum cost allowances that we've talked about. Remember, each one of our buildings has a maximum cost allowance allotted to that. That tells us what the state will aid over a 5-year period of time. So when we submit a project, the clock starts ticking. And in 5 years, that amount falls back off and then is accessible again for us to do additional work. There's construction maximum cost allowances and incidental maximum cost allowances. The 2018 project and the 2024 project utilized significant portions of incidental. The more incidental we use, if we use all the incidentals in a building, we actually end up making the construction cost allowances inaccessible, because then any incidental portion that we do ends up being non-aidable.
And that's because the site's in incidental. That's
Correct.
Yes.
Everything on the outside is that incidental piece. So for us, it's really about wanting to be good fiscal stewards and ensure that we are maximizing aid with every project that we do. One piece, and we haven't talked about it yet, but I'll probably come back to the board, whether that be early winter or late spring, and update our long-range facility plan. Because one additional piece that's come forward as we've discussed the 26 project is, hey, should we stick to the every other year vote, right? Because in the plan, we were voting in 28, or might we wait till 29 when we have a significant reset of maximum cost allowance and then be able to tackle some much larger chunks of work, especially at the high school, right? So there's gonna be a lot more for us to talk about, but that's why each of these projects is important to understand how they nestle with the other, because they absolutely have an impact on how we're doing that work. So any questions for King and King or myself or the facilities, or if any member of facilities has any additional comments or things that we've talked about that you want to share?
Right, can you remind everyone, you talked about the long-range planning, but when it comes to building condition survey and revisiting that and tying that into long-range planning, can you give some insight on that? And as I think we talked about that's coming up and we should take a look at that again.
So next year, we have to do our building condition survey. So that is coming up again very, very quickly. And that's why you'll also notice there's a lot of commonality on here. You'll notice in the last 2 projects, just about Every single building has new PA systems. We had an emergency project for elevators at 2 of our schools. Now you're noticing elevator modernization or upgrades or complete replacement in a lot of these. So all of those things kind of fit under our building condition surveys, and we're trying to tick those off along the way. We're trying to address those items while also trying to upgrade some of our instructional spaces as well. But you are correct. Every 5 years, a district must complete a BCS, a building condition survey, and we're coming up on that time period right now. Other questions or comments?
So I do have something. The 2018 project originally had our outdoor track at the high school Layton campus. And when the football field needed to be moved, space constraints made it so that we upgraded the middle school one. So we have a nice, beautiful track there, and that's it. I've been talking a very long time about how our track and field and cross-country teams are probably 2 of the most student highest numbers that we have of sports. A lot of students are impacted. When we look at especially things like cross-country meets and track, a lot of schools come to us. So having children who have done both of those sports and seeing other people's facilities, I don't know how we invite people sometimes, to be honest with you. Our concession stands aren't what they need to be. Our bathrooms are, I'm glad to see the bathrooms are in there, but I'm wondering, since I've been talking about this since 2020, I was thinking 2024, we decided it wasn't something we can fit in. It was one of those incidentals that didn't rise to the level of maybe the parking lots at the high school complex. But now we're here at the 2026, and I don't see it yet. And I'm wondering where it is in the discussion. Are we still even talking about it for 2028, 2029? I know it's an incidental, so it's above and beyond, but seeing how we're going to not be using any of the capital funds that we have and not raise the taxes at all, I'm wondering kind of what the thought pattern is here with that facility.
So first, a concession stand doesn't necessarily fit an incidental.
Okay.
It's a non-aidable
Non-aided.
expense. Our long-range plan has a focus on using only capital reserve. So we have to be very cautious about when we're using capital reserve and what we're using capital reserve for. And so right now, my focus is on maximizing the amount of work that we can get done to improve instructional space. Not necessarily some of those other, it would be nice to have spaces. It is something that I think we should continue to talk about and look at. So for instance, if we're looking at that toilet room that we're doing, that work, is that under, is there any incidental aid back on that, or there's none, correct?
That is.
That's what I thought. So all of that work is going to be unaided. Now, there's always some level of unaided work built within a project, but what fiscal advisors does is they look at, okay, is there debt falling off? And will that debt fall off help to pay for or offset any of that unaided work? That's what you see happening here for the 26 project. That's why you see us doing some unaided work, but there's no one use of capital reserve and or tax impact. Now, there's always room for conversation amongst the board of how much capital reserve do they wish to utilize? How much unaided work do they wish to do? As long as we understand that every time we use a capital reserve dollar for one project, it's not available for the next. And so what we have started in facilities talking a little bit about is a 29 project, and how do we maximize and do the largest project we possibly can to try to get the most work, and that'll probably be a 2-phase project. But that will require some more significant capital reserve. Now, we have more than $4 million in capital reserve. We have a little more than, I think, $1.5 million. Mr. Clucci, do you recall off the top of your head? Or about 1.5 in the original capital reserve? Correct. And we have a little over 3.3 in the 24, or somewhere around that range. Mm-hmm. So that's what we currently have available in capital reserve. we can fund the 2024 capital reserve up to 15 million. We do need to talk about, okay, is there a plan for us to continue to fund capital reserve? The other question that we have to answer, though, is, and the reason we have been cautious about how much money we're putting into capital reserve is because once it's there, we can't touch it for any other circumstances. And the state of fiscal affairs at the state level, funding for schools being uncertain, the more flexible our reserves can be, the less of an impact we might have when it comes to budget season. So it's all of those layers that we have to consider. But those are some of the considerations that I think we need to continue to have conversations about. Hey, what are some of those other priorities that may have fallen off that we've talked about in previous years, but we want to bring back to the table to talk about, hey, where do these fit in? Can we fit them in, and then what's the impact?
Do we have an idea yet what probably it's too early, so, because you're just starting with it, but when might we have an idea where the 2029 project, what kind of capital funds we would need for that? Is there a time frame in the planning?
So our focus right now will be on the 26 project, right? Getting it to vote. Once we vote, then it's really about design. As we move farther and farther down design, and once we get to bid, then we turn all of our attention to the other. Because the more we design, once we have bids and we can really see where the dollars are, then we understand how it's impact maximum cost allowances. Because the schedule of values, if you will, is what really drives that. And then that will help us to understand what's truly available. Now, what we will know is, we know that we will have significant funds available at the high school. We know that because the 18 project, some of that will fall off. So we have a lot of incidental, we have significant amounts of construction. Once we get a little bit farther through in the 24 project, I'm gonna ask fiscal associates, advisors to update our long-range plan to give us a better sketch of what, say, a 29 or 30 vote would give us and what maximum cost allowances are available. Because one thing that we haven't talked about that's very new in Oswego, and I'm gonna take Sean's thunder away from facilities. He hates it when I do this. But I know Sean was gonna talk about this, but we have a phase 3 in the 2024 project. That's a phase that we didn't anticipate. That's a phase because our bids came in lower. So we have over $3 million of additional work that the group is now designing and getting ready to go out to bid, right? They will include items at Fitzhugh, at the middle school. Each of those will then have an impact on maximum cost allowance as well. So it's all of those pieces kind of layered together that will ultimately kind of come up with, okay, what's the best way to package this for not only that next project, but also how does that fit in and nest in for the future projects as well?
But I think it's a good question by Jim, like, and what can we anticipate when we talk about this in facilities committee meetings? You know, what would be available, like Ray said, after the 26 referendum, and then what schools we don't go to because we're trying to have that build back up, and then those are the ones we go back into 29. But for everyone, along with, and it all really just ties together, like the building condition survey, the long-range plan, and then aidable and cost allowances, just how does all that web, you know, come together? And but I think if we can provide some visibility to the board and to the Oswego community, after we get that vote off, I think that would be good for everybody to be able to see that. Again, it's not locked in, but it's just a plan, it's out there, it's what we're looking at.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you, there's definitely some scope we kept off of the 26 project to try to preserve maximum cost allowance based on economy of scale to get a better project for the next one.
Sure. No, I get it all and appreciate it. Used the word Sean did, there's a web of things. I just know, well, so correct me if I'm wrong, The project that I talked about, scoreboard, bleachers, making it a facility, that will never be aidable.
That will be
That
aidable.
would be
Yes, because it is site work, but it would hit your incidental. So we just have to make sure that that is available for you, and then you will get aid on that work.
So that project would be aidable once the middle school, because it's at that complex, once the middle school, we clear a certain dollar amount
Yes.
that we've already spent on projects, that will open up an amount of money that could be used for that.
Yep. If
Okay.
there's additional, like, outbuildings, if that became a priority, those are not aidable. But the field, and I believe the bleachers too, that is all aidable work.
Like a concession stand would not?
The con-
Bleachers,
correct.
scoreboard,
And the
what?
press box.
Do we have
yes.
an idea when the middle school starts ticking over and those monies start freeing up?
It's really rolling there because
It is
we've
rolling.
been doing a series of kind of smaller projects at the middle school.
So maybe I can ask that the facility committee just look into this and keep it as part of the active discussion, because,
Yeah.
Dr. Kilmer, and I appreciate you telling us, I had not heard that, because of some of the bids, we were able to come in under and we're able to do a little more work than we originally projected. You always build something in. If we have more money, we can do this. And that's great that we're able to do it. The number rang out in my mind when you said that, 3 million. Because somewhere around 2022, 23, I don't remember, we had the superintendent and the athletic director work with all of the coaches who use that middle school facility. If you got what you wanted, go through there, new pit, whatever it might be, scoreboard. The number was about 3 million, which was big at that time, and is big even today. But to me is, if a number of those things will never be aidable, we're going to have to make it, some board is going to have to make a decision to do it, or permanently leave it at the status quo, which will always continue to diminish. So at some time, some board, I think, is going to have to say, we're going to have to do this project, given we know some of it will not be aidable. So maybe I'll ask the facilities committee that we start looking at the timetable of when money would be freed up at the middle school that would allow for part of the project to be aidable, and then see whatever board is on. We always set things up either for ourselves or whatever future comes, that we will have had that conversation, so that they can decide, okay, here's the aidable stuff, and maybe there's some unaidable, we'll do X, Y, or Z, or whatever it may be. But if we don't keep talking about it, that facility's never going to really do anything in my
Yep.
mind. Because I've been talking about it for a while.
So that's not the only, so I think you bring up a good point, and I think something that I'll work with, whoever does our next BCS survey, one thing that we'll look at is let's try to highlight what would fit under aidable and what would fit not, right? Because sometimes, like for instance, when we talk about the warehouse,
Yeah.
there's significant work, completely unaidable.
Yep.
Completely. Correct me if I'm wrong, but all of our bus storage,
Correct.
unaidable.
Yep.
So we have a unique situation here where we have storage for the majority of our buses indoors. They are at the point where they are going to need significant work, completely unaidable. So it is going to be important for us in those long-range plans to, how are we dropping in unaided work into each one of those to ensure over the course of the next decade that those things get done while we're still able to address buildings as well.
And not unaidable, but incidental work. Again, the new tennis courts at the middle school, incidental, right? But that was planning, and the reason that we did that was to protect our tennis teams this fall with the condition of Buck Boulevard and those tennis courts if we don't get those. So yeah, those incidentals hit the middle school, but that was absolutely planned on because of the work needed and being done down at the high school
Had to be.
campus. So sometimes things are connected. Similarly, not to get too deep, but there's work that's being done at the elementary schools, or we have in the 26 plan to be done at the elementary schools and like the cafeterias where their stages are and their things like this, to get those nicer and more usable. Because what if in 6, 7, 8 years, we put in a new theater? Where would those performances go? So we are really thinking about step by step, okay, are we prepared to literally wipe out the theater for who knows how long? And still have our concerts and instructional spaces for, band, music, et cetera. So again, not to get too deep, but there's definitely layers.
Yeah. Any other questions from the board? Well, thank you very much for coming and talking to us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yes. Dr. Kilmer, was that the whole report?
That's it.
That's it. Excellent. Okay. We have a need for an executive session here. So if I can have a motion to move to executive, please? I should say, it's for the purposes of, that should be part of it, the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. So I have a motion by Jennifer. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carries. So we will be back as soon as we're done and to finish the meeting. We all set? Okay, so what I'm looking for now is a motion to adjourn the executive session.
Move
please.
it.
Thank you. Is there a sec- Thank you, Tim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. I am now going to ask for an amendment to the agenda. There will be 3 items that will be added. The first one will be item 6C under Board of Education. And it will read, upon the presentation and recommendation of me as the Board of Education President, that the Board of Education deny the Okta Stage 3 grievance that it received dated July 8th, 2026. The second one is item 11O that was handed out to board members. 11O is an extra compensatory staff recommendation, and also 11P, which is an extra compensatory position recommendation for the 2026-2027 year. So if I can have a motion to amend the agenda to add items 6C, 11O, and 11P, please.
Move it.
Thank you, Tim. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sean. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. So we're on to our Board of Education. I'm going to group items A and B together. If I can have a motion for 6A and B, please.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second? Thank you, Jen. Any discussion on Board of Education items A and B?
No.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now we're to the amended item that we just added, item 6C. If I can have a motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, I've got Tom and I've got Jennifer on the second. All right, it's a personnel matter, so there are no discussions. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, is there anybody opposed?
Nay.
Nay. So the motion carries 4-2. All right. Next is committee discussions, and I think we only have one committee. That's facilities. Sean?
Yeah, I think certainly appreciate K&K coming in and the conversation that we had. So what I was going to talk about, we pretty much covered that. So we do have our next meeting, excuse me, later this month on the 20th. So more to come. And yeah, I know that Mr. Colucci does his drive-bys and everything. I'd welcome everybody to watch the progress over the next 3 to 4 weeks, because certainly feels like crunch time, but a lot of infrastructure work's done, and so now we can really start seeing some finishing touches. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Sean. All right, we're to our consent. We're on to our consent agenda. I'd like to group items 8A through E, please. If I can get a motion for items A through E.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Julie. Any discussion on consent agenda, consent items A through E? Okay, having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. We're to personnel. I'm going to ask that we group our support staff and professional staff recommendations together. That is items personnel 9A through L. So if I can have a motion for A through L, please.
I'll move it.
Thank you, Tim. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. Any discussion on items A through L? Okay, having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries unanimously. If I can have a motion for item M, please. Extra compensatory positions for 26-27.
I'll move it.
Thank you, Sean. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. Is there any discussion?
I wish to recuse myself from discussion and vote on this. My wife is one of the recommendations, and this is a direct financial benefit to my household.
Fair enough. Thank you, Tim. All right, anybody else? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And abstentions? Yes, one abstention. There we go. So that's M, So now I have items N, O, and P, please. So just as a note, O and P are the ones that we just amended the agenda to include. So if I can have a motion, please, for personnel items N, O, and P. Thank you, Jen.
Second.
Thank you, Tim. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. We're on to finance. If I can have a motion for items 10A through E, please. Thank you, Jennifer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Sean. Any discussion? Finance items A through E. Haven't heard none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda are items from the board. Do any board members have anything to talk about this evening? Is it evening yet? Almost.
I do. There's
Okay,
no one
Tom?
else. Sit back and relax. It'll be a while. No, I went to the NISPA conference education event, and I thought it was great. I saw 7 different presentations. The first one was with Dr. Betty Rosa, the Commissioner of Education, talking about, and this was the first one, it kind of ran as a through line through the whole event, talking about the portrait of a graduate, how it's going to be implemented. And I'm just not sure where we are all and our awareness of it. For a while, I used to think of it as a target they threw out there with no pathway for us to get there. And this brought more clarity to it, and there was a woman there who came from NICET, and she explained it very clearly. And so it's one of those things I think we'll need to talk about it in a future meeting. But it gave clarity. It gave some of the things that we're doing right now for Portrait of a Graduate, taking the emphasis off just the Regents component, coming to one diploma that will be for New York State. It'll be one diploma, eliminating others. Talk about immersive and project-based learning, and a lot of great things that went with that. Dr. Brian Graham brought in a great presentation on AI. And Ray, I talked to you about him before and saw him again. It was really tremendous, I thought, because he brought in the idea of utilizing as a tool and not as something that we depend on or students depend on, but how we teach them to utilize it. But some of the implementation of it was so clear and so greatly. He created a GPT for board members using the NISPA profile for board evaluation. And he ran that through, and I'll be able to get the link for everybody, and we'll have access to it. So if you were to come to a situation where had an angry parent about talking to you about something, you could talk to the GPT. It will give you your steps that you should go through. It was a great implementation of the tool. He also used it as a capstone project builder for students. That was, we go to profile or portrait of a graduate. It's going to have us meet the kids where they are and try to engage them in the things that they are excited about. And so he was able to take and again build a GPT that he could put implementation that would be specific to your desires and excitements and build a project for you. The other thing they did, they took the regents for 2 years in a row, the Earth Science Regent, ran it through. Give me the most used terms and give me a spreadsheet for that. Took the spreadsheet and then turned it into a 160-day lesson plan for the year to work on those. Here it was the Regents exam, identify high-frequency academic vocabulary and generate 160-day curriculum maps aligned with state standards. And it did it in about 3 minutes. It was just one of the things he did live while we were there. So it was a great and very exciting. I'm sorry if I get a little nerdy and excited about this, but I do. But I'll bring it around. There's so many things that I was lucky to see. The other one, and I'll bring it right to this one, it was a digital defenders And it was the most practical application that I saw of the Portrait of a Graduate. It took students, it was the Dutchess County BOCES. They went around, took 3 different schools, and they had students come together, and their job was to teach high school students. They would design and deliver cybersecurity lessons to their peers across grades K through 12. The initiative is grounded in the Portrait of a Graduate attributes, emphasizing leadership, communication, and collaboration. Those kids presented there, and they talked about how what they learned from it, learned to be better communicators, better presenters, had a greater appreciation for teachers and teaching because they had to go and develop plans to teach to kindergarten, to elementary, all the way up, different band groups. And they presented extremely well, but it was another project or use of the Portrait of a Graduate that emphasizes the project-based learning. And again, it was very exciting, and they are also going to create a repository to try to spread this program throughout the state that we'd be able to utilize. So if we wanted to develop that program, the kids were the most exciting about that because they also said getting the information and teaching peer-to-peer was really accepted among their peers, and so they did a great job with it. I have all the notes from it, and it's something that I think we ought to just pay attention to as we move forward because the Portrait of the Graduate is going to be implemented, and we need to get clarity on it so we can explain it to the public because I believe right now it's a little vague. So, and I have all of these things. If anybody wants the notes, I have them here for all the sessions. It was fun. I geeked out.
Thank you, Tom. Any other board members with items this evening? No? Okay. There is need for another executive session. Oh, wait, actually, I do have one thing. I forgot. We received an email recently about a form for us to complete as board members for our upcoming retreat. So if you haven't checked your email yet, it's in your inbox now. Dr. Kilmer was gracious enough to kind of come up with some questions, some thoughts that Julie and I looked at and was turned into a form. Basically to try to get some ideas shared amongst the board members before our retreat. So we're going to have a retreat coming up in the next couple weeks, and it's just something that rather than us just getting together and say, how do we start this retreat? We have a little bit of information based on the questions that are in the form. So as an announcement to the community that we're going to be doing this, the purpose of the retreat is for our board yearly goals. So we're going to be looking to set what the goals are for the board for the upcoming year. So if board members could please complete that Google form relatively soon so we can compile the information and share it back with everybody before our retreat. Okay. Thank you. All right, now there is a need for an executive session for the medical, financial, credit, employment history, particular person or corporation, and the rest that comes in that line, same as before. So and I do not believe we will have a vote afterwards. So if I can have a motion, please, to move to executive. Thank you, Jennifer. Is there a second? Thank you, Tim. All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a nice evening.
We're just going to go over there.